You know, rhythmic clapping is a sign of adulation in European audiences, and as you can see, calls for an encore. Here they are for a final curtain call. Those fabulous Funny Bears. You know, even bears have their ups and downs, I guess.
We will return after these messages.
You know this house? There's one on every block where all the kids play. And there's a mom kids can depend on to make days fun. That's a mom who depends on Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid pre-sweetened. It's about half the price of soda, and soda doesn't have vitamin C or those special Kool-Aid fruity flavors.
Skating and Kool-Aid, wow! Well, Mom, you sure know a lot about fun. Yeah!
Moms depend on Kool-Aid like kids depend on moms. Kool-Aid brand soft drink mix.
Whenever I brought home beef in a doggy bag, the look in Buster's eyes made me want to give him one every night. And now I can. A bag of Top Choice. It's like a doggy bag. It's made with real beef. You know it's coming. Top Choice gives Buster a meal with real beef, like a doggy bag from a restaurant. And no eating dry food has beef. You're welcome, Buster.
Top Choice dog food, like a doggy bag with real beef every night. Tough, daring drivers fly in British Grand Prix Motorcycle Championships, plus the world's strongest women pump iron in the Women's World Powerlifting Championships. Sunday on NBC Sports World.
Wednesday, Real People, the first TV show starring you, the American people. Then Arnold surprises Dad.
Here's another kid to adopt.
Different strokes. And it's Irene Cara from the hit movie Fame in a new comedy, Irene. Then Quincy takes on the government to save a boy's life. Wednesday, starting at 8, 7 Central and Mountain on NBC.
Well, it really has been fun, hasn't it? Here's kind of a farewell look at some of my favorites. Larissa. The Bears. Anokin. And, of course, the Elephants, Yuri Marshevsky. Big Booty. This hat was pretty sensational, don't you agree? Well, right now it's time to say, at least for a while, good night and farewell.
Next, Abraham's faith is put to the test on Greatest Heroes of the Bible. Then Marvin Kalb reports, why does Poland make Moscow shudder? An NBC News special tonight. Tomorrow, see Disney's Follow Me Boys. Then Sergeant Cottrell is hospitalized and an orderly wants him dead on chips. Followed by Irwin Allen's Hanging by a Thread. Tomorrow.
At NBC, our pride is showing the faces that'll make you laugh.
Here's Johnny. Yummy.
They're the stars with charm, wit, and style.
I heard that.
Police.
Oh, This is NBC News Update, sponsored by Walt Disney Productions. Here is Bob Kerr.
Good evening. The Soviet Union has warned Poland that its freedom and security are being threatened by spreading unrest, but Moscow also pledged more economic aid to Poland. Air traffic controllers in Portugal will stage a 48-hour boycott tomorrow to support striking U.S. controllers. The Federal Aviation Administration says most transatlantic flights will be rerouted without much delay. Pope John Paul today delivered his first full-length address in St. Peter's Square since he was shot 3 months ago. And another homecoming, royal newlyweds Prince Charles and Princess Diana returned to Britain today after their honeymoon cruise. Bob Kerr in New York. More news later on this NBC station.
Though everyone is eager to see Condor Man, seats are still available. Condor Man, rated PG, now playing around in theaters.
WTOL TV, Toledo 11.
Come on, Sandra. Here we go. Ready? Down the dusty road. Down the dusty road.
Like these children, Philip was born with Down syndrome. It used to be called Mongolism. It's the most common of all congenital birth defects, striking 5,000 American children every year.
Our dream has always been that Philip's father and mother would come to see him as a dignified, respectable human being and take him home.
At 5:30, the cricket pitch is empty, the picnic grounds lie deserted. The telephones stop ringing. The country settles comfortably down to watch the latest episode of, now wait for it,
Now training dogs to sit and stay the Woodhouse way.
It started out as morning educational programming. Popular demand put it on Sunday evening. And the critics a few months ago named her Television Personality of the Year. That, in British terms, is something more than an Emmy.
Walter McNaught.
He started as an actor, but found his talent was greater in working with actors rather than being one. Note how he brought the spectacle and larger-than-life texture of opera to Shakespeare and made it work.
Caterina, wilt thou take Petruchio to be thy lawful wedded husband?
I will not!
My best friends are all women. They really like working with me because I worship women.
I'm Mike Wallace.
I'm Worley Safer.
I'm Dan Rather.
I'm Harry Reasoner. Those stories and more tonight on 60 Minutes.
Ford calls Escort the world car with better ideas from around the world. Plymouth Horizon's an American car with some pretty good ideas, too. How do they compare? In an independent test, 50 Americans judged. For styling, Horizon won. For driving ease and riding comfort, Horizon won. Horizon was rated superior overall to Escort's world car, 43-7. Guess that makes Horizon the world beater. From Plymouth.
Now, Chrysler, Plymouth, and participating dealers contribute to give you back $300 to $1,000 when you buy.
If you ran into an old boyfriend, would the years look better on him than on you? I wondered until I discovered Oil of Olay, the beauty fluid that's similar to your skin's own natural fluids. Each drop penetrates quickly without being greasy, easing dryness to help soften the signs of age.
It's been a long time, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You look great.
Thank you.
Discover the mystery of Oil of Olay. It can help you look younger, too.
One of the reasons we rerun stories during the summer season is to update them, report on new developments, let you know what, if anything, happened after our original broadcast. Tonight, a case in point. The case of 14-year-old Philip Becker, about whom we reported last November. The story you're about to see, again, prompted a concerned viewer to take some action, which will change Philip's life. Handicapped since birth, Philip also has a heart defect. Without an operation to correct that defect, he probably would not live beyond 30. With the operation, he may live a lot longer. But his parents refused to permit the operation, partly because they believed that Philip would live a life not worth living. And just what is Philip's handicap? It's not that he's a vegetable or comatose or anything like that. Philip is retarded.
Come on, Sandra. Here we go. Ready? Down the dusty road. Down the dusty road.
Like these children, Philip was born with Down syndrome. It used to be called Mongolism. It's the most common of all congenital birth defects, striking 5,000 American children every year. Apart from sharing certain physical characteristics, slightly slanted eyes, backs of heads flattened, speaking difficulties, all Down's victims are retarded. Some severely, others slightly. Generally, their IQs are in the 30s to 50s instead of the normal 90 to 110. Modern medicines and teaching techniques enable them to have productive lives. But only a generation or two ago, all Down's victims were considered physically and mentally hopeless. A view apparently still held by Mr. and Mrs. Becker.
Philip has been institutionalized since birth, never spending a single night here at the home of his parents. His parents say they have expressed their concern for Philip by putting him in the best possible private institutions. While the state has paid for most of that care, the Beckers have made contributions. The Beckers say that they have visited Philip about 6 times a year. Some people who care for Philip insist that it has only been twice, Christmas and on his birthday.
Philip is by no means a Karen Ann Quinlan. He's a boy that's already alive, and he's worked hard for the life he has. He's a 13-year-old walking, talking, thinking, caring human being who taught us and our children more about love than anyone could.
Pat and Herb Heath have known Philip since 1973, when they started doing volunteer work at Philip's nursery near their home in San Jose, California. They liked Philip from the start and felt sorry that his parents rarely saw him. So they started bringing him over for occasional visits. Soon he was coming every weekend and even was given a room of his own. He became part of the Heath family.
What is this?
Names of the family, names he wanted to learn to write. We tried to take playtime and turn it into a learning experience whenever we could. This was a Mother's Day present that Philip made all by himself. He designed it, glued it, and put it all together. Hammer, nail.
What was your reaction when he brought that to you?
I cried. I was touched. If you ask him if he wants to live or die, he can tell you. his quality of life is already here. We're not talking about a newborn infant with defects. We're talking about a 13-year-old child.
When Philip was 11, he received a heart catheterization, the same procedure we were permitted to film in Los Angeles Children's Hospital. The doctors found that Philip, just like 40% of all Down's victims, had a heart defect.
Well, this is a model of a normal heart. And if you open up here and look, this is actually the place that he has a hole in his heart. And the surgical repair of that today is a fairly simple, straightforward kind of procedure.
Dr. Richard Koch is not Philip's doctor, but he is a Down syndrome expert.
The procedure is actually taking these tissues and closing off that particular hole in the heart itself.
Philip's cardiologist recommended surgery. He told Mr. and Mrs. Becker that the risk of death was only 3 to 5%, and that the risk would increase if surgery was delayed. He warned them that without surgery, Philip had a 50-50 chance of dying before he was 30, and that when death occurred, it would not be sudden, but slow and extremely painful. A second cardiologist put the surgical risk of death at 5 to 10%, noted additional risks of possible post-operative complications, but neither was asked for nor made any actual recommendations. The parents decided not to have the surgery. And who are the Beckers? They live on this street near Palo Alto, California. He is a successful lawyer. She runs her own small business. They have 2 other healthy and normal children. Mr. and Mrs. Becker are courteous and caring, respected people in their community. They discuss their views with us, but decline to appear on camera. They have no doubt that they are making the correct decision.
Give to me the best argument for leaving the child alone and not doing these procedures.
I can't think of any argument at all.
Dr. Koch's opinion is not unanimously shared by his colleagues at Children's Hospital. Dr. Alan Lewis.
It's always difficult for one of us, whether we be a physician or whether we be a non-medical person, to put ourselves in the actual position of the family, because they are the ones who are living day by day with that child. And many of their concerns are, what will happen to that child when I'm gone? Who is going to take care of them when I no longer can do it? Either I'm too old or I'm no longer here. Which family member will do it? Or will society do it? And will society do it as well as I have been doing it?
People in regular contact with Philip, workers at his nursery, teachers, his doctor, asked the California Attorney General to take the Beckers to court.
The case was heard in this San Jose juvenile court. The state's attorney argued that the surgery was a necessity of life and urged the court to intervene to force the family to allow the operation. The parents presented 2 basic arguments. First, they argued that the surgery was too risky, that Philip might die. Despite medical testimony that the surgery stood a 90 to 97% chance of success, the family said that it was too risky. Secondly, they argued that Philip might live, that if the surgery succeeded, that he might live a normal linked life. And that, said the parents, could cause burdens for their other children in later years. Also, they said, Philip would be warehoused in uncaring institutions. And Philip, the parents claimed, would live a life not worth living.
The judge was Eugene Primo.
I was impressed by both Mr. and Mrs. Becker's testimony, obviously, and the sincerity and the depth to which they had gone through their various decision-making processes.
In the court record, Mr. Becker, testifying about institutions for the retarded, quote, "They are packed into a room like animals and left to sit there and have nothing to do. I mean, they are just wasting away. They are surviving, if you would call it that. Life in and of itself is not what it's all about." Then Mrs. Becker, quote, "His life is not going to change. He's basically doing what he'll be doing most of his life. So we are just extending the sameness of it all." Then, quote Mr. Becker, when he was asked if he thought that Philip would be better off dead, quote from the father, "Yes, I think it would be best for everyone, including Philip and the survivors."
The processes that I went through was to listen to each of the parents and try to gauge their credibility and their sincerity, their depth of intellectual process, and to try to determine whether or not myself or anybody else could do any better than this as a parent. did the parents in this case take all necessary steps to make the right, a proper judgment on the surgery question? And I found that they did.
Judge Primo agreed with the parents and did not order the operation. One of the lawyers who appealed that decision is Robert Baines.
What would happen in this case if we had a normal 12-year-old, totally normal intelligence 12-year-old, facing the same medical risks that Phil faces? Would the court in that case order the surgery over the parents' objection, no matter how sincere the parents' objections were? Would the court order surgery in that case? And I'm convinced that they would. And then the question is, does the court have any reason to treat Phil any differently because his IQ is lower than yours or mine, or the quote, the norm? And I think it comes down to just a square equal protection case. You know, are retarded folks entitled to the same protection of the laws as normal people?
When I talked to Mr. Becker, he said to me, where does the state get off? Where does this attorney in San Jose get off? Who the hell is anybody to tell me, the natural father of this child, what I'm to do with this child?
I would generally agree with him if what he wanted to do with the child was other than to hasten the child's death.
But where do you draw the line? There's a 3% chance, a 10% chance this surgery would not succeed. Why isn't the parents right to say, we don't want to take that chance? We don't think the child should take that chance.
I guess I have to fall back on the notion again that Phil has rights of his own, and that at some point the state has a right to come in and say, you parents are making the wrong decision on his behalf.
Judge Primo's decision was appealed and was upheld unanimously. The appeals court began its opinion, quote, "It is fundamental that parental autonomy is constitutionally protected." And just as Judge Primo did not want to second-guess the Beckers, the appeals court did not want to second-guess Judge Primo. Further appeals to the California Supreme Court and the United States Supreme Court were dismissed without comment.
The Court of Appeals said, and I quote, "It is fundamental that parental autonomy is constitutionally protected." Do you agree with that?
Yes, but I would have to say, what is a parent? I don't think it's the right of any parent to take a child, never bring it home, never give it that daily love, and then do everything they can within their power when that child is lived already to say, now we don't want him to live anymore. I think it's your responsibility when you bring a human life and a soul into this world is to do everything you can to help that person grow up to be an individual that's independent as much as possible and that has a strong spiritual, emotional, and physical body. And I think trying to do anything less, you lose your rights.
The Beckers insist that they and Philip are being victimized by an uncaring public.
Their privacy, they say, is invaded anytime someone talks about the case or writes about it. They distrust anyone who favors the surgery. Seeking vindication and revenge, the Beckers have sued their critics, including Philip's nursery and his school, the opposing lawyers, the doctor who recommended surgery, Pat and Herb Heath, a local television station, and a local magazine. The Beckers refuse to be interviewed. They refuse to allow reporters to see Philip, and they threaten to sue anyone who has custody of Philip who fails to keep him hidden from view.
To respect Philip's privacy, we did not try to get any closer than when we saw him on a school outing at San Francisco's Maritime Museum, listening to a recorded guide. So to get a better idea of his capabilities, we asked some children's hospital cardiologists if they knew any youngster whose medical problems and performance levels are similar to Philip's. They led us to Michael Romano. Both Michael and Philip have heart defects, and surgery was recommended for both when they were 11. Both are small for their ages because of their heart conditions. Both are low-level verbally, but mentally they are high-level for children with Down syndrome. The major difference is that Michael had the surgery.
Michael, what color is the big A?
Yellow.
Michael, look at the word. Will you find that on your card? Good. What is that? Say it louder.
Go.
Go.
Michael's overall medical condition was worse than Philip's, and his risk of death from the operation was higher. Michael was never institutionalized and has lived all his life with his parents, Diana and Chick Romano.
When you raise a child from infancy all the way up to their age they are now, and you see them gradually declining, and not to know that in a couple of months he'll either be with you or he won't, you take the chance no matter how slim it is. And when they said it was 80%, we had to do it. We just had to. We couldn't let him suffer that long.
No.
Even if it was just a short decline.
We made the decision that if, in fact, he died at that time, well, that was it. But he was entitled to the chance for the operation.
And what is Philip and Michael's future as adults? Instead of being hidden in institutions, the trend is to have them live in sheltered home environments. Instead of doing nothing, they may well be employed in workshops where their pay scale is based on their efficiency. Philip's present medical condition is uncertain. The best way to find out is to perform a second catheterization, but the Beckers refuse to allow that. We have not seen any doctor's reports, but people who see Philip daily tell us that he now occasionally faints, turns blue, and appears to be getting weaker.
If the Beckers were seated here in front of you, what does your heart yearn to say to them?
To love their son with as much depth as they can muster. And if it's not enough, to let go.
The Beckers ordered the Heaths to stop bringing Philip to their home once the controversy began. The Heaths continue to visit Philip at the nursery and have offered to adopt him.
In your decision, you said, and I quote, "The parents are making the decision based on the fact that they won't be around and it will be a burden to their children." Were you aware at the time, or are you aware now, that a family was available that wanted to adopt this child as their own, legally adopt the child?
I don't believe there was any testimony on that. I think that's the first time I've heard that statement.
Would that have made a difference had you known that?
Well, you're asking me to speculate. I'd rather not speculate on facts that I did not hear, because I don't know how I would have ruled it.
Our dream has always been that Philip's father and mother would come to see him as a dignified, respectable human being and take him home to live in a family setting with his brothers. He would adore that. Now I see that's not possible.
But isn't it their right, their privilege not to do that?
I don't think so.
And not to have anyone question it?
I can handle Philip being dead because we believe in heaven and we believe he'll be in a much better place. What I can't handle is for him to spend 2 years dying in agonizing death while adult people sit around and fight about who has the right. That's killing.
After seeing that story, a viewer contacted Mr. and Mrs. Heath and then persuaded a lawyer to work with them for free. The lawyer filed a new lawsuit, arguing that Philip's interest would be better protected by the Heaths than by his natural parents. A week ago Friday, the California Superior Court agreed. Custody of Philip was taken from the Beckers and given to Mr. and Mrs. Heath. That ruling opens the way for medical tests to determine whether heart surgery is advisable and for Philip to live full-time with the Heaths. After the ruling, Mrs. Heath said, "We are all very happy, very thankful, and we hope this bitterness can be put away." The Beckers are appealing the court's decision.
Nobody rises up in the city quite the way we do. With our egg McMuffin, we do it. Nobody can do it like only McDonald's can.
If every Japanese car sold in America had to face Plymouth Champ in a test drive, and if all the contenders had to have front-wheel drive, and mileage as high as Champ's, plus a base sticker price as low as Champ's, no other car could show up. Because there's no other front-wheel drive Japanese car with a price as low as Champ's that is mileage as high. Of all front-wheel drive Japanese cars, the Champ is a Plymouth from Mitsubishi.
Now, Chrysler, Plymouth, and participating dealers contribute to give you back $300 to $1,000 when you buy.
If you saw the Woodhouse Way before, you'll know exactly what this story is about and why there's a dog on the cover. If you haven't, you're in for a treat. But first, as they say on television, a word about television. In a few weeks' time, the 3 networks will unleash their new programs, all of them trying to catch your attention with varying degrees of news, drama, comedy, sex, violence, and mixtures of all of the above. In Britain, they have 3 networks as well, and their master programmers are up to much the same tricks as ours. A year ago or so, something happened on television on Sunday night there that caused the giant brains of television to scratch their heads in wonder. What was it that so transfixed a nation on Sunday evening? Well, what happens in Britain is Britain stops dead in its tracks. At 5:30, the cricket pitch is empty, the picnic grounds lie deserted. The telephones stop ringing. The country settles comfortably down to watch the latest episode of, now wait for it,
Now training dogs to sit and stay, the Woodhouse way.
While the master programmers examine the chicken entrails of audience research and performers' personality ratings, the BBC found that a 70-year-old woman with the voice of a sergeant major, plus some slap-happy dogs with absurdly inept owners, combined to form a hit. It started out as morning educational programming. Popular demand put it on Sunday evening, and the critics a few months ago named her Television Personality of the Year. That, in British terms, is something more than an Emmy.
I want you all to say together the ditty. Throw the hands forward, jerk and let go. Now, throw the hands forward, jerk and let go. Splendid. Now, we're going to do a little round of walks. Go on, forward.
In another time, Barbara Woodhouse would be out carving out the empire.
Now, the first thing I never heard any of you do was none of you slapped your thighs and said heel or walkies. If you've got...
Today, she must be content to straighten out dogs and their people.
Walk on fast, much faster. Come on, mister. Walk past. Go on, walk. Now, left hand in front, Mrs. Field.
She does not suffer fools of either variety.
That's right. Halt. Make them sit when I say halt. Gosh, I shan't enroll you in the army.
You might have thought that man-praising dog is the most natural, most ordinary thing to do. Mrs. Woodhouse tells us there's only one way to do it, her way.
You use one finger only for scratching the chest. And you say, what a good boy. And you scratch the chest like that.
Pretty girl. No, that's wrong. Right between the chest. There's a little girl.
There's a clever little girl. Good boy. Lower the voice for good. What a good boy. What a good boy. That's splendid, right. Now, over two fingers like that.
This woman thought that owning a dog meant companionship and daily walkies.
Let go.
She quickly learns that even leash holding is a daunting science.
It must be a quick jerk across your thigh and let go. Let me see. What do you do? You've twisted it. Put your hand on there. Put your hand on this lead. Now jerk it sharply and let go. Across your knees. Jerk. Not upwards, downwards. And much harder than that. You're getting in front of Mrs. What-you-call-it. Sit.
Sit.
Well, that wasn't a very creditable performance, was it?
No, not very good at all.
No, he's not very good at heel work, is he?
Terrible at heel work.
Yes, he pulls and is silly, isn't
That's
he?
right.
Right, now I'm going to give him a few jerks. Come on, love. Polar. Come on, Nelson. Good boy. Now, I don't want that hand on at all. I want that hand carried there. Relax, you've got it all stiff. Fold it. That's right. Now drop your elbow. Look, I don't know about you, but I hold my elbow in like that, do you? That's right. Sit. No, that's not right. It's in two. Sit. Now, open your hand wide.
Remember, this is one of the most watched shows on British television, produced by the same people who gave us Masterpiece Theatre. Why are British viewers so hooked on Woodhouse? Could it be that they feel fortunate not being part of it?
No, over here. You shouldn't have touched her. Why are you touching her back? No, come in again. You mustn't touch her back.
Mere self-confident, not yet humbled English men and women with less than perfect dogs.
Love the dogs. Praise your dogs. Can you get down and praise your dog, Mrs. Williams?
Meanwhile, the poor lady in red still can't get it right.
Wait. Wait. Now, look, your hand mustn't go on the lead to say wait. It must be stiff. Wait. Wait. And say the T. Wait. Now we say place. Now, listen, it's W-W-P-T. Walkies. Wait. Place. Talk. Walkies. Good boy. Come on. There's a good boy.
Mrs. Woodhouse lives the quiet country life in Hertfordshire and claims her gift with animals and people lies in her many tones of voice.
I have a very wide range, you know, a voice that is cross, you know. What a good dog. Walkies, Pippi down. What a clever girl, or what a clever boy. Naughty dog with your teeth. Naughty dog. Oh, they look cool. Then what a good dog, a praise. The other day I was phoned from Melbourne, radio, and they asked me if they phoned back in 20 minutes, would I do an interview on my phone, you
This
see.
is in Australia?
This is in Australia, 16,000 miles away. And I said, certainly I would, and I did a little chat, and then I gave my command, sit, wait, down. And rather a plaintive voice came over after about a couple of minutes. Would Barbara please tell my Alsatian it needn't wait anymore? It's been standing ever since she gave the command, wait.
But you mean without any visual signal, these dogs in Australia?
Oh, they do it perpetually. Oh, yes, dog, I proved this.
And stood or sat at attention
Yes.
until released?
Oh, yes, yes, they did it, all of them.
Tell me, what is the gift? Can you describe it? What is the gift?
I think it's voice. I mean, this morning I got a letter from somebody who said, now that the series comes on, the dog directly hears the signature tune, rushes in to watch it. Well, why should it watch it if it wasn't voice? This is Hovis's terrible behavior before he came on the first program. Right, now you've had dreadful trouble with this dog pulling, haven't you? The reason was you didn't have the right choke chain and you had a tight lead. You were actually pulling against him. So I'm going to hold it over 2 fingers. Here, I'm going to tap your leg, give him his name, and set off. Hovis, heel. Come on, boy. And he will walk perfectly on a loose lead. Tap my leg again, close. Come on, Hovis.
So Hovis is cured. But look at the woman. Shoulders hunched, spirit broken. In program 3, there was the case of Basil, who took off like a helicopter every time a truck, not cars, just trucks, passed by. And indeed, one jerk from Barbara and Basil is grounded. Case closed. And there was Chico the Chihuahua, who, whenever it was time for walkies, would lock his undercarriage.
Come on, you doggy, walkies.
A light touch of Woodhouse, and Chico roars down the runway.
Come on, little doggy.
Case closed. Do you think that people are as trainable as animals?
I don't think they're trainable at all, hardly some of them. I mean, some of them are absolutely untrainable that I get here. They're unbelievable. Let go. There. I mean, even if you watch some of the work that went on in the series, you'll see one person I told 5 times not to hold her lead up here, to bring her hand down. I brought it 5 times down, and she set off, and it went up again. Don't ever put this hand on. Let go. There. The only way to put that hand on is if he pulls on the lead, when you jerk him back and let go.
What about other bigger, larger animals? Are they as trainable?
Oh, well, my cows were like human beings. They'd do everything they were told. And when my cows had finished giving milk, I saddled them up and rode them.
You mean show jumping?
Show jumping. They could jump better. They jump better than horses. I've jumped a railway gate on a cow from a standstill. They don't need a run. They don't need bits. I used to ride them on head collars. My daughter used to go out on her pony, and I'd go out on a cow because they love going out. I mean, I don't send them to market, but when they get old, they might just as well have fun, so we used to ride them. I took my cows on holiday with me to the seaside because I wouldn't leave them behind. They would have fretted. That's the sort of way I think animals should be treated.
It's Sunday evening again, and once again, all of England is hushed. From the telly room of the grandest house to the corridors of power to the simple yeoman's cottage, all classes share the common class of Barbara Woodhouse's garden.
Now watch. I say it's in action 2. Sit. right up to the shoulder, very smartly. Now, will you all say the dog's name and do that? Sit. Excellent. Will you do it, Mrs. Bridgman? You haven't got a dog, but you've got to learn. Now, we'll do it once more. Sit. Good. Got your lead in your wrong hand, Mrs. Now, the next thing to remember is this. You use your second finger of the left hand. Let me see the second finger of the left hand. Right up. Close the hand otherwise, more or less, like that. Yes, you've all got it splendidly. Right. Next one. Sit. No. Sit. Do it again. Sit. Hand stiff. Sit. Yes, now you were slow, Doctor. Did you see? You come on, Hoopy. Come on, love. Hoopy, sit. Sit. Thunderous command, stay and step back and drop your lead. Stay. Shh, you'll not say stay again. What the deuce are you doing? Don't keep saying stay. Just push him down, Doctor. That's a good boy. Last command, leave your dog.
Sit. Stay.
Columns and columns of London's serious papers have been devoted to the Woodhouse phenomenon.
About turn.
One critic wrote, "There's no use not watching her because on Monday, everyone will tell you about it."
You didn't say sit quick enough, did you, Mr. Johnson? You see, she played the fool.
Another critic compared her power to Miss Piggy's.
I'll just carry him back for you, because I don't think, don't laugh at it, 'cause we don't think it's funny.
In fact, on the television series, what you're really doing is training people.
It's all training people, if you really come to think, because we know that the dogs will do anything you want to teach them in under 6 minutes.
Hoopy, come. What a good boy. Hoopy, come.
I've all my life said I will train any dog unless mental or sexually mad, which is impossible to train. I will train your dog in 6 minutes.
You say, with the two exceptions of mentally and sexually...
Mentally, if they're mentally ill, there are lots of schizophrenic dogs these days. They're being fed too much protein.
So what do you do with them?
Well, I don't keep a schizophrenic dog. And the oversexed ones, unless they're castrated or something, you just can't do anything with them. I mean, I adore animals, but I'm not soft with them. You see, if an animal does wrong, I pitch into it straight away. And when I say pitch in, it's with voice. After all, everybody wants a leader, don't they? I mean, the whole world wants a leader at the moment. I'm thinking of taking the job.
Down. Now, thunderous command, down, stay.
Stay.
So it comes as no surprise that people trek from every corner of England to this country lane in Hertfordshire to Campion's, her house, to watch her work her wonders on dogs, but really, of course, on people. It's been said before, but it's worth repeating, that if Barbara Woodhouse and Miss Piggy, both of whom I know intimately, chose to, they could control the world. Now, stay.
That was excellent. Good boy.
Training dogs the Woodhouse way has completed its umpteenth repeat on British television, but there's more of Barbara to come. In October, a new series called Barbara's World of Horses and Ponies, and in December, an hour special, everything you want to know about problem dogs. We can't wait.
You can wreck a good sandwich stuffing it in a small bag.
Oh, this thin bargain bag is too narrow.
Betty, try Glad sandwich bags. They're wider than your bargain bags, and only Glad has a pleated bottom that expands to fit your sandwich. You get about 20% more room.
Wider and pleated. They are easier to use.
Right, Betty. For a better-looking sandwich, use a better-fitting sandwich bag. Yes, we're #1, and we're Glad.
3 boxes of Arm & Hammer baking soda? Yes, to beat that summer heat. Box 1 is for my bath.
Arm & Hammer baking soda in my bath leaves me feeling smooth and silky. Pure softness, without an oily feeling.
Box 2 is for my freezer, so ice cream and ice cubes won't taste funny. Box 3 deodorizes my refrigerator. With melons and potato salad, I need it.
Look, 3 boxes, Louise.
You devil, Harry.
Saves money, too.
60 Minutes, a CBS News weekly magazine, will continue.
Use plutonium.
Only the French would take it to the cleaners. A laundry for nuclear waste on Walter Cronkite's Universe, Tuesday night.
The controversial MX missile program. Do we need it? If so, where do we put it? Decision time for the president. Full coverage on the CBS Evening News Monday.
This is CBS.
If your next Pepsi has a star on top, it could be your lucky star in the Pepsi Challenge Payoff Game. Just peel and what you see is what you win. A TV. Win a bike. Or win instant cash. Get the idea? And if you spell the word challenge, you win $500. So play Pepsi Payoff Caps. Look for stars on Pepsi, Diet Pepsi, Pepsi Light, and Mountain Dew.
Vanishing Point tonight at 11:30.
Seven lively arts, one lively artist, Franco Zeffirelli. If the name doesn't immediately strike you, he directed the movie Romeo and Juliet and the television production of The Life of Jesus, and plays like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and operas like Aida and Otello have had at one time or another the imprint of his direction or staging or costume design. He's Italian, but he works in Paris, New York, Stratford-on-Avon, and recently in Seacliff, Long Island. Wherever he is, he speaks the language. But the language he speaks best is a universal language, and he speaks it to audiences all over the world. His latest movie, part of the production of which we followed, has been a critical disaster. But the probability is that hasn't affected either his drive or his exuberance, which we found when we first broadcast this piece last January. If any place more specific than the world is home to Franco Zeffirelli, it is the one of his three houses, which is on the outskirts of Rome. We found him there, and feeling mildly one-upped by his list of credits, asked him, in effect, what makes Franco run?
Well, if I were a woman, I would have been constantly pregnant all my life because I'm capable to say no to anything or to anybody. I've been attracted by all kinds of activities and experiences since my childhood. I came out of a disaster, you know. Italy was in total shambles immediately after the war in my very early years. And I began to look for job, for work, for communication.
Walter! He started as an actor, but found his talent was greater in working with actors rather than being one. Unlike some directors, he likes actors.
I have a tremendous respect for actors. I mean, there won't be any theater or cinema for that if there weren't actors. There would be a theater without directors, probably. Actually, the theater was born without directors, but was born with actors. So actors are really the pillar. I have always worshipped them. I've always given them the feeling that I wouldn't exist without them. I really feel that you cannot achieve anything in movies or in theaters or in opera unless you bring out that magic coincidence between the human nature of an actor and the character he has to play or she has to play.
One of the things Zeffirelli can do, out of his exultant embrace of life, is to work well with people other directors might find temperamental. Take his first movie, The Taming of the Shrew, 1965, with Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. Note how he brought the spectacle and larger-than-life texture of opera to Shakespeare and made it work.
Caterina, wilt thou take Petruchio to be thy lawful wedded husband? Ego coniungo vos matrimonio nomen Patri, Filii, Spiritus Sancti.
My best friends are all women. I spend most happy time with women. I find, in general, men very boring, very uninspiring, except again.
So you have known women passionately?
Yes, and that's why women love me passionately, especially actresses. They really like working with me because I worship women, you know. I adore, I mean, the fantasy and the fun and the intensity of every sentiment in women, it's much higher than men. Men have to go through a lot of problems before they can express their passions, which makes the character of man in a way more interesting. But it's easier to live with a woman, to deal with a woman as a friend, as a person, as a companion, than with a man.
There's no doubt that Zeffirelli likes to work with women, and vice versa. But he lives without wife or children, with 4 dogs and a male companion who doesn't like to be photographed. Zeffirelli himself is an extremely photogenic 58. 12 years ago, he was in a serious automobile accident. The driver was Gina Lollobrigida. But cosmetic surgery left him with still the kind of face directors like Zeffirelli look for. Here in his studio is where his ideas and his sketches and his thoughts grow like his garden. Zeffirelli likes everything he does. But watching him preparing a new production of Othello at La Scala in Milan, you get the feeling maybe he likes opera best. It is as grand and grandiloquent as he is himself. Zeffirelli sees things mostly as a painter would. Whether he's producing an opera or photographing a movie or designing a costume, the medium appears to his questing eyes as a canvas. And he likes full canvases. Like a painter, he gives attention to detail, to every figure, every spot of color. If somebody demanded of you tomorrow, either movies or opera, not both.
That's a cruel decision. Because when I'm through with a film, I'm longing to go back to opera. When I've done an opera, I love to make a film. It's like I told you, I think, like being a sultan with several wives. When you go to bed with one, he says, she's the best. Then you say, well, let's try the other one. And she's very good, too. And you cannot make up your mind which one of your wives is the best. I feel a bit like that.
Did you ever want to be an opera singer or an actor?
I would give my right arm to be a tenor, to be capable of producing that kind of sound in front of thousands of people. That, I think, must be the most exciting power that man can be given. This music? My God. Exciting.
And he likes to cook and socialize and clown. He thinks he learns from his friends, from a kind of extended family that he likes to keep around at places like this house. This is Tre Villas, his summer house, hanging from a cliff south of Naples. In a way, each of his houses is a stage set designed by Zeffirelli.
She came one day from Syria.
Here he likes to show off his collection of art and furniture.
You know, I began to collect things connected with the sea. For instance, this Madonna has been done by some recluse, some prisoner in the late 18th century.
A year or so ago, a book came out in America called Endless Love. A strange but interesting story of a young man who wanted to possess a young girl completely and was very disorganized about how to do it. It attracted Franco. He had it adapted into a movie script. In July, he went off to New York to cast it. This is an extremely American book about extremely American people. You're extremely Italian. Can you cast and direct that kind of a situation?
Look, I've brought myself to the conclusion that there are not such differences within human beings, whether they are Americans, Russians, Africans, or Chinese, or Italians. Our cultures are so intermingled. Your music, your way of living, your literature, your cinema, your theater is part of our culture, and vice versa. America owes so much to European culture. I don't understand this barrier
How do you get the hundreds of people coming to you, or do you find them?
Well, you know, kids of this age very seldom have agents or managers. Very often they have mothers who work as agents. So in these cases, I did it for Romeo and Juliet too, for Brother, Sun, Sister Moon. I do open calls. Open calls.
You put an ad in the paper, or you put it up?
We put an ad in the paper. We go in various cities. I mean, we're combed all America.
How many people will you have looked at?
Oh, only Los Angeles the other day was 780 one day.
You looked at them all?
I wanted to, because suddenly, in this crowd of people that come there attracted by the illusion of, you know, tinsel city or career in the movies, comes out somebody who is extraordinary. I mean, it's terrible, you know, to have to see hundreds and hundreds of kids. Most of them are not at all, you know, what you look for. But it's the only way to give to these unknown kids a chance.
I'll find her. If they're gonna let me out of here, I'll find her again. I don't care where she is.
I was disgusted. I was sick to my stomach. He made me puke, just like you do. Lousy son of a bitch.
Zeffirelli had a problem. For the boy, he wanted an actor who could justify his, Franco's, conclusion that this character, this nut, who burns down houses and goes to a mental hospital, is somehow basically lovable. None of these actors got the part. You got a pretty good idea of who's going to play David?
Well, I found this quite extraordinary kid. You know, David is the most important role. He's the reason to make the film, because he's the boy, he's on the story of the boy, and he's on the screen practically from the beginning to the end.
Can I see him?
Yes. It's quite a remarkable kid, but I must say there are many in America.
I don't want you to see her for, let's say, 30 days.
What is this? Let me talk to Jade.
I just told you.
He found Martin Hewitt. Hewitt had been a parking lot attendant and a car washer in Los Angeles. Hewitt fits one of Zeffirelli's trademarks. Like the lovers in Romeo and Juliet, he is a fresh talent with no professional experience.
It is not fair. You've got no right to pull this.
You pick up an unknown kid like this one, who is only full of hopes and potentials, and you give him a chance, then you really, your hand becomes almost the hand of God. It is said, now your life is no longer going to be this, but becomes another thing. That's what makes my days in this moment very, very tense.
Get out of here, right now. I want you off this property. I'm not going. I'm going to kick your ass. I'm not going.
6 weeks after his screen test, Martin Hewitt was in the movies, but not in tinsel Hollywood. Martin was playing David Axelrod, the love-obsessed teenager who sets fire to his girl's house and ends up committed to an insane asylum.
This is your son.
Another trademark of Zeffirelli's is using real-life locations. This is the Queen Psychiatric Center on Long Island, and if the script calls for depressing conditions, he elaborates by creating his own rainstorms.
191 bacon, take one.
They're trying to make me think I'm insane.
My heart beats fast when I think about the story of this boy. I really identify with him. I pulsate with him. I get excited with his own passion and fury, this burning fury, this ball of fire that consumes everything around him. He's an extraordinary character. I mean, it's a real classical story, I think.
What a difficult life to be an actor.
Zeffirelli has no noticeable objection to getting along with the people who put up the money. Perhaps a reason he selected Brooke Shields to play the girl in Endless Love. She's a major current box office draw, which Martin Hewitt isn't yet.
No, I will just...
Keep going, keep going.
But the next setup is...
And Zeffirelli likes a warmth and explicit sexuality in his films. He thinks people have had a distorted view of sex.
Sex has become an instrument of Satan, instead of being what it was created for, an act of love and a generous gift from God. So I think I like to recapture that value in sex, even in this wretched planet of cinema where, you know, sex has always been used to bring more audience to see your work and make more money out of it. I think what I'd like to really wash the board and start from scratch and say, what's wrong in seeing a boy of 16 and a girl of 15 having sex on the screen? What's wrong with it?
Well, some people would see something wrong with it. And some people would see things wrong with Zeffirelli's touching and kissing of his actors and his friends. Although that is at least partly just Italian. And some people would question Zeffirelli's ability to spread himself so widely, if not so thin. But it is hard to question his perception of himself. If he is the computerized Renaissance man, he is beautifully programmed. And his determination to accept, not only to accept, to embrace life, becomes not only believable, but likable.
There is an American wagon that may change your expectation of wagons. Lynx from Lincoln Mercury. It's not only the most fuel-efficient American-built wagon, Lynx is the first one with front-wheel drive and fully independent suspension. Lynx. Now more than ever, the world belongs to Lincoln Mercury.
At supper time, I've got 20 men and 1 dog to feed. All beef eaters. Look at Butch. He loves beef. Mighty Dog pure beef. That's what's special about Mighty Dog. Of all leading brands, only Mighty Dog is packed full of pure beef. The others aren't. See, they're mostly meat byproducts. So get your beef eater Mighty Dog beef for dogs in the single serving can. For pure beef, it's the only one.
Time now for a few minutes with Andy Rooney.
Tonight I'd like to call for the end of the necktie. Why should half the men in America go around all day long with a piece of cloth tied around their neck? It's apparent that men don't like neckties. No man wears a necktie on vacation or when he's just taking it easy around the house. I brought some of my ties in today. I got a lot of ties. I don't buy many, but I've never thrown one out. I must have 150 ties, but I only wear 3 or 4 of them. You probably won't like them. No one likes anyone else's neckties. I think of them in categories. These are my favorites here, these ones with the small print. These are ones somebody gave me. I don't like them, but I like the people who gave them to me, so I keep them. These are my own mistakes. You know, I thought I ought to try something different, but they didn't work out. Or they look good in the store, but they look terrible around my neck. These are my striped ties, some solid color knit ties. This is a tie I bought in Scotland years ago. I like it, but it's so bulky it makes too big a knot. A lot of women think men have it easy. They don't know how hard it is to make a tie come out even at the bottom every morning. These are my thin ties. I'm waiting for them to come back into style. And these are my bow ties. I like bow ties, but I only wear one about once a year with a tuxedo. Men have funny ideas about ties. For instance, I'd never wear a blue tie with a brown jacket. I never wear striped ties with checked shirts. I'd never wear a bow tie with a button-down shirt. There are some ties I wouldn't wear with anything. I still wear a necktie because I'm not a trendsetter. I like to look absolutely average when it comes to clothes. Not wearing a necktie when everyone else wears one has never seemed to me like the place I want to take my stand as a revolutionary. I sure wish, though, that the average, normal, everyday kind of thing to do was to go without a necktie.
In a story several weeks ago, we said federal law prohibited the showing of beer drinking during a commercial. We were wrong. It's the broadcaster's own voluntary code that prohibits it, not the government. I'm Dan Rather. We'll be back next week with another edition of 60 Minutes.
I think the craftsmanship idea is
was lost for a number of years, and now we see people who are proud of what they're doing. They're putting their names on the final inspections of the vehicles.
At Ford Motor Company, quality is more than a priority. Quality is job one.
I put my name right on it. So if anything goes wrong, it comes back to me.
Better and better, see what we've done. At Ford, quality is job one.
The word is Wausau, a small town in Wisconsin.
Wausau, W-A-R-S-A-W. W-A-S-A-H.
Wausau, W-A-U-S-A-U. There's a USA in the middle, a W-A up front,
That's
and another
fine,
U in
Phyllis.
back. That's Wausau.
Thank
As in Wausau Insurance Companies.
That's fine.
The business insurance expert.
Thank you.
The United States Postal Service handles 300 million pieces of mail a day. Well, that's their job. But that doesn't mean you have to put your important business letter into that pile. Now you have an alternative. Introducing the Federal Express Overnight Letter. It costs only $9.50 when you drop it off, and it gets delivered practically any place in the country overnight. Absolutely, positively.
Some job. Standing all day, and now I've got hemorrhoids.
Better not neglect them.
I was hoping they'd go away.
When I get a flare-up, Preparation H often gives me fast, temporary relief from pain and itch.
You have hemorrhoids?
Lots of people do. But Preparation H even helps shrink swelling of hemorrhoidal tissues due to inflammation.
I'll try Prep H.
Ready for the big sale today?
Thanks to Preparation H.
Preparation H relieves pain and itch, even helps shrink swelling.
You like this music? My God. Exciting.
Thursday, watch your favorite entertainers amaze and thrill you for 2 fantastic hours on the 5th Annual Circus of the Stars, Thursday at 9, 8 Central and Mountain.